It's me, Dr. KSD. I was listening to an audiobook by Bob Proctor today, and he said two things that really resonated with me. Thing number one, if you know me, you've heard me say time and time again that I recognized that there must be about 80% of us, there must be about 80% of the people in this world who are clones of one another. They want to do what everybody's doing, think how everybody else thinks, say what everybody else is saying. And then there are 20% of us, I am amongst the 20, who are leaders, who think for themselves. They will push the envelope. They're going to color outside the lines and think outside the box. Because at the end of the day, the only way that evolution can happen is if we have people who are thinking uniquely the way the Lord has called for us to think. So Bob Proctor said 95% of people are non-thinkers and 5% are thinkers. So 95% are clones and 5% are leaders. Oh my gosh. And then he went on to say that those 95%ers are living the life of somebody else. They're living the ideals based on whoever influenced their life. And that made me start thinking about grief, because I never understood grief before. Because when my mom died, I just knew she was going to heaven. I was sad. I wasn't grieved. When Papa died, I was grieved because that is not the order of things. I am supposed to get old and die before he dies. But that's not how it went. But I was talking with somebody not too long ago, and they were telling me how in their family, whenever anybody died, whether they were close or not, they had to grieve for a year. That's tradition. Tradition puts times on things and durations on things, but it's not real. Grief happens as a result of a loss, when there are unexpressed emotions that have come up as a result of that loss. There were so many unexpressed emotions I had about Papa, and I just finally had to lay them all out to the Lord. I just had to get it out of my system, and that is when I realized, oh man, I feel a lot lighter. The sadness isn't gone, but the grief is not there like it was before. And so I realized that as I am walking people through the grief program, there are some who get it right away. And it's the people who have been grieving, who have a real relationship with the person or thing that they have lost. And so the loss was because of a relationship. And when we can get to the point of what the grief is about, what unexpressed emotions do you have about this relationship, then they're able to get over that hump. But when the relationship is based on tradition, when you are living how somebody else lived, and it can be mom and dad, it could be grandmother, grandfather, it could be whoever your mentor or whoever influenced your life. When you are handling grief the way they handled grief, and it's not based on what you feel and hear, that is when it's going to be a more difficult issue for you to be able to get over that hump. So I want you to evaluate yourself. Where does your grief come from? Is it truly from your own feelings and emotions in here that have been bottled up, unexpressed? Or is it based on the people who influenced your life? And are you part of the 95 or are you part of the 5? And do not be hasty to answer, please. Because I'm telling you right now, there are a lot of people walking around here who think they are part of the 5. And baby, I guarantee you're part of the 95. Where are your thoughts coming from? Are they your thoughts? Or are they the thoughts of somebody else? If you are a person who just grabs a hold of a thought and you love it just like that, and you don't take the time to think about it, to see if it lines up with you and your thoughts and how you think and feel, you are part of the 95. Because listen, like our fingerprint is unique. Like our fingerprint is unique, so are our thoughts. Our brains were made unique to us. Even identical twins don't have the same brain and the same thought process. We were made to be unique. You know why? It's our uniqueness that leads to evolution. We are all part of a puzzle. We are each unique piece to a puzzle. Can you imagine a puzzle with all the same pieces? It'll never be finished because there's no way to complete the puzzle because everybody is just the same piece. We are meant to be the unique pieces. Stop trying to be like everybody else. Be your own unique person. It's who God created you to be. And when it comes to grief, you cannot live to your full potential if you are stuck in the rut of grief. And you will be stuck in the rut of grief if you are grieving based on how somebody else told you or showed you how to grieve. Even if it's your parents or grandparents, your grief should be your own. Grief is based on how you feel and how you feel based on a relationship that you had. And listen, it is okay to grieve the relationship that wasn't the way you wanted it to be, because there is such a thing as grieving the loss of a relationship that you know will never happen. And that goes for people who might have been estranged from their parents or their siblings or maybe even their spouses. All the things that you wish could possibly happen in the future are now never going to happen if they're gone. And grief can happen from that. But if you're grieving the loss of somebody that you really didn't even have a relationship with, because tradition says that, well, they were a part of my family, that was my cousin, I'm supposed, no, that's not real grief. That's you following in the footprints of tradition, and that is unhealthy. So take some time, figure out who you are. It is important for us to know who we are, because until we know who we are, we cannot make the impact on this world that we are supposed to make, and we are meant to make an impact. So do your thing, take your time, evaluate yourself, know who you are, and then you can live your life with purpose on purpose.